Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp live every Monday at noon. And today we have a special live because this is going to be specifically a live Q&A. So we're going to dedicate this entire session to a live Q&A, but not just about anything. We're going to focus in on freight broker sales and specifically how to get shippers as a freight broker or a freight agent. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Hold your questions, okay? Do me a favor, hold your questions till we're ready to get started. In the meantime, for those of you that are jumping on live, hit me in the comments with the city and state you're logging in from, and I'll give you some shout outs, okay? So we're going to start with that, and then we will jump into Q&A. Do not jump the gun on your questions, putting them into the comments until we say go, and then I'm going to start addressing, I'm going to answer as many questions as I can in the time allotted. I promise I will not get to everybody's question. There's always more questions than there is time. So if you have questions that are specific to how to get shippers as a freight broker or freight agent, that's what we're here today for. So in the comments, hit me up with the city and state you're logging in from, and we'll start doing some shout outs and we'll go from there. Okay, Betty Jones, welcome, welcome. The Entrepreneur Life, welcome. Jordan from Troy, Tennessee. The Entrepreneur's Life from Seattle. Mellow Rugged Investments from Washington, D.C. Victory Perkins from Texas. Ember from Houston, Texas. Corey Buchan, as usual, from Billings, Montana. Brian from Independence, Oregon. Ricky, San Antonio, welcome, buddy. Scott from Pennsylvania. William from, from New York. Scott from Lubbock, Texas. Brittany McClung from Medford, Oregon. Cecilia Augusta from Portland, Oregon. How many of you are first timers? This is the first Freight Broker Bootcamp live that you've ever attended. Hit me up in the comments. And then also those of you that are already students of my Freight Broker Bootcamp, the startup program, or my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, the advanced Freight Broker Sales Training and Coaching Program, let me know in the comments where you guys are, if any of you are already students or members of those. And I'd love to hear from you guys, okay? Sergio, Miami, Florida. Okay, hold your question, Sergio. You got to wait, buddy. Hold your question. Because with all of the feed that I have coming in with people kind of giving all these where they're from and this dialogue we have right now, I'm going to lose your question and I won't get to it. So hold until I say any of your questions, hold tight on the questions, okay? Because they're going to get lost and I want to make sure I try to help you. Said one from Houston. Mellow Rugged Investments from Washington, D.C. Cecilia, already a student. Awesome. Boot camp or Sales Accelerator, Cecilia? Which one? Sergio. Brittany McClung, already a student of Freight Broker Bootcamp, which is my Freight Broker startup program. Over 10,000 students have went through that program, by the way. Ooh, Tabello from South Africa. Awesome. Corey's been a student of Bootcamp and the Sales Accelerator. Yes, I know you have, my friend. And you're always here literally every Monday, okay? It doesn't go without notice. William, Freight Broker Bootcamp. Good. Cecilia's done both. Good. Awesome. Awesome. So we got some existing students, past students, and we've got some new people. So we're just going to give it another second or two to get live, or let people to get live, and then we're going to jump right in. If you're catching this on replay, hit me up in the comments with #replay. I love to hear from my replay folks. And if you are catching this on replay, okay, it's no problem. You can type questions in here, even if we're not live, because I will try to come back in the next week and answer questions in the comments to the best of my ability. It's obviously a lot harder in the comments than it is for me to do it live because I can riff and it's just a lot easier, right? I can do a little bit of a brain dump on whatever your questions are. So, man, Scott, finished boot camp, waiting for Sales Accelerator, next sign up. Scott, you're in the right place. We're going to talk about that today. I got some good news. Ember from boot camp. Awesome. Ricky was a student of boot camp and the Sales Accelerator. Awesome. Love it. Okay, cool. So let's do this really quick just to clarify. All right. And then we're going to jump into the Q&A, but hold your questions. All right. Freight Broker Bootcamp, because I have some questions of people. What's the difference between the two? Freight Broker Bootcamp is my freight broker and freight agent startup program. It is an online course self-paced, go at your own pace. You have 24/7 online on-demand access, okay? That program is designed to take you from not knowing what a freight broker or freight agent is to helping you get started, to getting you in business and getting you, started and start making a little bit of money, okay? That's Freight Broker Bootcamp. If you guys want that or you want to check that out, all you'll do is go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Trained over 10,000 students, had that program for over 15 years now. And we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. Okay, cool. So that's that. That's the startup program. Now, if you're already a freight broker or you're already a freight agent, or maybe you've already went through some sort of startup training for freight brokerage and you're looking for specific help as it relates to freight broker sales and how to get shippers, that's what I designed and launched my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator for. So let me explain to you what that is. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, and if you want to check the details out and get on the wait list, you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is a coaching and mentoring program where I take that piece of my brain, I transplant it into your head, my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, but most importantly, the freight broker sales system that allowed me to do over $200 million as a freight broker and has allowed many of my students to rapidly grow to 7 and even 8 figures in sales as freight brokers, even if they didn't come with any experience. They weren't truck drivers, they weren't in logistics, they didn't know what a freight broker was. And this sales program, the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, allowed them to rapidly get customers and scale up. Okay. So that's what the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, that is a coaching program. It's a hybrid. It has an online component, but it also has where we weekly get together on live coaching and mentoring calls. And then that's where I help you not only learn the system, but integrate it and then answer any questions along the way to help you start getting your first 5 or 10 shippers and hitting 7 figures in sales. Okay. So those are the two programs, just so you understand the difference. The Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is not for newbies that don't know what a freight broker is. That's what the Freight Broker Bootcamp is for. Okay. So I hope that helps clarify that, because sometimes there's a little bit of misunderstanding on what those programs are. Okay. They're different programs, not only in the content, but they're different in the style of delivery. Okay. Because one is a coaching and mentoring program and one is an online course. All right, cool. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let me just check something before we jump into Q&A. Hold on. Let me make sure this is still working. Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So let's do this. All right, guys, here we are. Q&A, hit me up. But I want to focus in today as much as possible on freight broker sales and how to get shippers as a freight broker or freight agent. That's what I really want to try to focus in on almost exclusively today in this live Q&A. I want to focus in specifically on that topic. All right. So if you have questions about how to get shippers as a freight broker, try to be specific with your questions. Okay. So that I can really kind of be specific with my answers. Because if you're real generic, like if you ask the question, how to get shippers, it's going to be very hard to answer that question because it's so general. Right. So I'm going to have to give you a general answer, and I don't have time to do a 1 hour, I'm not going to do a 1 hour webinar right now on it. It's actually just a live Q&A. So here we go. William asks, what person at the prospect do you target? How do you find that person? William, great question. And it's really not that hard. Let me give you a couple of ideas. First, who do we target, right? Who do we target as a freight broker or freight agent inside the shipper to try to start doing business with, start developing a relationship and start moving their freight? Typically, you're going to be looking for the shipping manager, logistics manager, warehouse manager, transportation manager, right? You're going to be looking for people that have titles, those titles and or something similar, all right? The cool thing about freight brokerage is you don't have to call the CEO to get approval on becoming a freight broker. You don't have to call the vice president of sales or marketing or operations to get approved as a freight broker to move their freight. These decisions are typically held within low to middle management. Okay. So either a shipping clerk or a shipping manager or a warehouse manager, those people are usually are empowered to make these types of decisions. So unlike, if you were making a large, IT spend or a large marketing budget where you'd have to probably go to the director or even the VP level, you don't need to do that as a freight broker. So again, I shared some of those titles: logistics manager, shipping manager, warehouse manager, right? Transportation manager. Those are the typical titles. All right. The second part of your question is, how do you find them? All right. So there's a couple of ways. There's lots of ways, but there's two ways that I would recommend. Number one is LinkedIn. So if you go on LinkedIn, no discernible order. There's two of them. Number one is LinkedIn. Going to LinkedIn and you can search by company name, you can search by title, and you can find their LinkedIn profiles. Most people, most professionals, especially if they're in a management role, even a low to middle management, have some sort of a LinkedIn profile. Okay, so that's where you would start. And you can sign up for LinkedIn for free and do those searches for free. The second source I would tell you would be, let me just double check something really quick. I'm going to give you an actual source. I think I lost you for a second there. Sorry, guys. Let me fix this. Okay, the other one that I want to share with you is is Apollo. So Apollo is one of the premier sources for business related data. It's a huge lead database, okay? And so I'm going to share with you guys a link really quick. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I'm just going to type it in here. Why does this thing keep doing this? It keeps on disconnecting me. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the other source is called Apollo. So you can sign up for free. If you go to this link, you'll be able to sign up for free without a credit card. So you can actually try the system, get access to the data for absolutely free with no credit card. Now, there are other services and other upgrades and things that you can do, but Apollo would be one of those resources where you can go in and search very granular by industry, by company size, by job title, by geography, by all kinds of different criteria, okay, that you can search by, and you can narrow it down to a list that's specific to whatever niche that you're looking for. And then you can see the contact's name, and you can also see company related data. Now, some of that data you have to pay for, okay, if you want to pay, but you can get access to a lot of the company data where you can't get necessarily for free. You can't get the shipping manager's cell phone, but you could get the company phone, and then you could simply contact the company and know who the shipping manager is, and then you can contact them through the main phone. So you don't necessarily need to pay for all the data. A lot of the data is absolutely free. So again, the two sources would be LinkedIn, and then the other one, which is on the screen here, is Apollo. So if you use that link right there, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/free leads, you'll be able to sign up for free without a credit card. Okay. So I hope that helps. I know that was a long answer, and I also had some tech issues there, but hoping that helped you. Teddy has a question. Unfortunately, not a great one. How are you, Dennis? Just purchased your program. Just got scammed out of a freight broker sales training. No, now she's not answering the phone. Is this common out there? Listen, in every industry, you're going to have good people and bad people. Okay? I don't care what industry you're in. I don't know who this person is, and I don't need to know who this person is. The important thing that you want to understand when selecting a coach or a trainer or an online course or some educational information is that you properly vet the person. And what I mean by vetting them is, number one, making sure that they're, not a psychopath or a scammer, but also understanding their background. If they're trying to teach you how to become a freight broker, one, have they ever have they built their own successful freight brokerage? Number two, do they have any successful students that they've taught, right? So you want to vet that. See, with me, it's all very transparent. I've had over 10,000 students. We've had many, many of those students that have went on to build 6 and 7 and even 8-figure freight brokerages. It's well documented all over online. And I personally did over $200 million as a freight broker. Okay. So I owned my own freight brokerage for 13 years. Then I sold that business to spend more time with my family. And that's when I really, really started focusing in hard on the Freight Broker Bootcamp, which is the training and coaching and mentoring program. Okay. So yeah, you want to make sure you vet that. It does happen occasionally. Of course, there are better trainers and coaches and courses than others. Again, mine just happens to, is probably, well, it's the most comprehensive and cost-effective online freight broker training. We literally have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews. So, I hope that helps. But yeah, be very careful who you spend your money with. I don't care if it's about freight broker training or whatever. You want to make sure you vet them properly. All right. Hope that helps, Teddy. Let me get this banner off here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find where I am here. I lost track. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, here's a question from Sergio. Dennis, about lumper fees. Does the brokerage charge the shipper in order to pay the carrier besides the regular load? We paid the carrier that money for lumper from our pocket. Yes. So what happens is this. First of all, just so you guys know what a lumper fee is. A lumper fee at some pickup and delivery facilities, they charge what's called a lumper fee, right? So they charge to load or unload the truck. Now, sometimes the driver can unload it, right? Or load it or unload it, and they get paid that lumper fee. But sometimes there are services there that you have to pay in order to load or unload the truck. It's separate from the freight charges. It's called an accessorial charge. It's an additional charge above and beyond the freight charges. And here's how it works. So you as the broker will fund the lumper fees. You'll pay the carrier for the lumper fees, and then you will bill the shipper direct to recuperate and to get those, or not to recuperate, but to collect those funds that you, so say there was a $200 lumper fee, you'd pay the carrier up front, and then you would bill the shipper on the back end, and then they would pay you. But you want to make sure to communicate with that shipper before you issue a lumper fee to anybody, that they are authorizing that lumper fee and the amount. Okay. So you want to make sure that you are authorizing it with the shipper before you pay anybody for a lumper fee. But yeah, it'll be a straight pass through. So if you pay somebody $200 to unload the truck, then you're going to bill the shipper $200 to recuperate that. Right. All right. To get that, reimburse that. Hope that helps. Okay, Eric says, as a new freight agent, are there load board apps to use? Yeah, there's apps. Sure there are. Most of the major load boards are accessible through mobile, right? Either it's a mobile website or a mobile app. The ones that I would kind of point to would be, the two biggest ones, which is Truck Stop and the DAT. Those are probably two. But if you have an Apple phone, right, or you even have an Android, go into the App Store and search freight broker or load board or, shipper, whatever, something of that nature. And you'll see all the apps and you can download those. Now, those apps are going to typically have some sort of subscription associated with it. If you want to use the Truck Stop app or the DAT app, you're going to have to be a paid subscriber. So that's just typically how those apps work. But yeah, you can access them through the web or through your phone, either through the web, through a web browser, and it's mobile, it's mobile compliant and it's mobilely designed to be easily accessible on mobile, or sometimes they have apps associated with it. So yes, there are. Okay, Entrepreneur's Life. So the freight agent speaks to the logistics. Okay, well, let me try to interpret this. So if you're a freight agent, you are working under a licensed freight broker. Your job is to find and manage find shippers and then manage their freight. Now, in order to do that as a freight agent, you are going to reach out to shippers in your niche, whatever that niche is. Let's say it's the steel niche, or let's say it's the oil and gas, or let's say it's produce, or what a bottled beverages, whatever niche you decide you're going to go after initially. And you're going to reach out to the logistics managers, the shipping managers, the warehouse managers, the traffic and transportation managers. Those are the titles that you're going to reach out to, and then start developing a relationship and rapport with the primary objective of starting to help them with some of their challenges, issues, or problems that they're having with their freight management. Okay. So that makes sense. I hope that's the real question. And if not, follow up with a second question. Okay, Scott says, should I get a business email address? Okay, so yes. You don't absolutely positively have to start with a business email address, but I highly, highly recommend it. And here's how it will work. If you're going to name your company ABC Logistics, just hypothetically, right? You're probably going to want to buy a domain name, right? An internet domain name that's associated with ABC Logistics. Ideally, it would be abclogistics.com, okay? If you buy that domain name, then you would be able to set up an email address like Scott at abclogistics.com. So I would strongly recommend that you do set up a business email. Okay. The reason being is because it just looks a lot more professional than you sending it from some random email or Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or whatever. Okay. So yeah, I would strongly recommend you set up a business email address. Yeah, absolutely. Good question, Scott. Thanks. Okay. Question from Jabril. Good afternoon, Dennis. How are you, Dennis? In your opinion, what's the best way to find shippers that do less than truckload or cargo van shipments? Okay, well, here's the biggest challenge with identifying full truckload versus partial truckload versus LTL. Okay, so the biggest challenge is that there's no database you can go to identify specifically based upon those different types of freight, because those are each different, right? Full truckload is exclusive use of a 53-foot van or reefer or flatbed. Partials truckloads are taking a portion of that truck, but the other portion of the truck is sold to someone else. And LTL, that could be in the form of like a hot shot or a cargo van, or it could also be common carrier LTL. Those are smaller shipments typically, right? So there's no database that you can go to. The only thing you can really do is know that most shippers have a variety of all of those things. Now, they may not do all cargo van. They may not do all partials. They may not do all full truckload. But what you want to do when you start a conversation with them, you want to let them know very quickly, specifically the niche that you're going after. So if you're in the niche of, let's say hypothetically, you're in the auto industry and you're focused exclusively on hot shots with a cargo van, right? Where you're going to take smaller shipments and you're going to do hot shots, just hypothetical, then you're going to want to let them know that up front on how you, one, understand that business, understand their challenges, but also can offer a cost-effective and very high level of service when it comes to that specific type of freight. So there's no easy way that you can just go to a database. You can use load boards, for example, and you can see where other brokers are posting, those types of loads, and you can identify maybe the city where they are or the location where they are, but they're not going to tell you specifically the load board isn't going to tell you specifically who the shipper is. Now, you might be able to ascertain that with a little bit of research behind the scenes, but that's a little bit of reverse engineering. So that's my suggestion. There's no easy way to identify that specific mode of freight. Awesome. Thank you. You were one of the Freight Broker Bootcamp students. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Vasal also has a question. You're a Freight Broker Bootcamp student, now a new broker. How can new brokers set themselves up with a factoring company? Okay, great. All right, it's a good question. So some factoring companies out there do not want to do business with freight broker startups unless you've already got shippers and revenue and loads moving. You've got invoices, okay? And so a lot of factoring companies don't want to do business with brand new brokers, but there are factoring companies that will. So specifically, we have, for example, let me just pull this one up for. Damn it! I don't know why this thing keeps doing that. Sorry about the audio, guys. So, how do new freight brokers get set up with a factoring company? All right, here we go. We have a relationship with a company called Opperfy. Opperfy is a factoring company that specializes in new brokers. Now, they'll do business with brokers or carriers that already have established business, but they specialize and work with new brokers. We've developed a relationship with them. I know the CEO, I know the owner, I've vetted their business. So there's two links on here. One is if you're looking for help on how to build your freight broker credit as a startup, so you can start you can build your credit. They offer a course, which is how to build your freight broker credit. You can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. Normally they sell that course for $250, but because you're a part of my community, you get it for free. So if you want to learn how to build your broker credit, you go there. Now, if you need factoring or you have questions about factoring as a startup, that's where you're going to go to the second link, which is freightbrokerbootcamp.com/cash flow. That is the link. Those are the two links. Again, I've fully vetted Opperfy. The CEO has been in the factoring industry for many, many, many years. We developed a relationship because I was looking for a specific source of factoring that new brokers could rely on as a way to get their business started and off the ground and start generating cash flow. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Who else has questions? Let's focus in a little bit more specifically on how to get shippers on freight broker sales. I know we've been talking about load boards and factoring and some of the other stuff, but let's focus in a little bit more specifically on sales, on how to get shippers. I'm going to probably give this another, maybe another 10 or 15 minutes if you guys have questions. If not, I've got a laundry list of things to do, and I'm sure you do too. We'll cut this short if you guys don't have a lot of questions. Okay, here's a question. It's not necessarily specific to sales, but let's focus in on sales. Do you guys have questions about cold calling? Do you have questions specific about lead generation? Do you have questions specific about, how to manage your sales data and with a CRM? Do you have any questions you guys have, how to overcome objections, things of that nature? Let's talk about those. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm looking, I've got, well, here's a general question. Dr. Berto, is it worth opening up a freight brokerage in 2025? I believe so, but let me explain to you why. Here's how business works, and I don't know what your background is, but in every industry, there's ups, there's downs. There's ups, there's downs, okay? We know that, right? Business cycles up and down and up and down, and it typically trends up over time, particularly in the freight brokerage, trucking, and logistics industry. Year over year over year, freight brokers are controlling more freight than the year before, okay? The trend is upwards, all right? So the macro trend is getting better and increasing for freight brokerage and logistics companies. Now on the micro, which is where we are right now, we had a big boom and then the market has kind of went down and now it's leveled off. I would prefer to enter the industry when we're towards the bottom and going to climb back up than at the peak and then see a huge drop off. And here's the reason why. Because when you're in a boom in any industry, particularly in the freight industry a few years ago, you could jump out of a plane with a parachute and land on a shipper that needed your help. The market was booming. There was more demand than there was supply of capacity. Okay. But now that's switched a little bit. There's less demand. There's less freight than is capacity. Now it's evened out. And so the rates are somewhat pretty stable. Okay. And so now what's happened is as this market starts to turn upward, okay, and the general trend is that's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next few months, although, they did a 90-day extension on the China tariffs and things like that. I think as these tariffs are worked out, this is a short-term blip. We're going to see a huge surge behind that, which is the catch-up phase. And so I think now is a great time to start your freight brokerage. And the thing is this, here's the reality. If you start up as a freight brokerage, you don't need hundreds of customers in order to build a profitable freight brokerage. Most freight brokers that are making six figures only have between 5 and 10 customers. That's it. So it's not like you got to go out there and dominate the market in order to build a six-figure income because the commissions are so high, right? And it's a volume-driven business. So what happens if you're making 10 to 20%, and you're doing 2 or 3 or 4 shipments a day for those 5 or 10 clients, you're making 6 figures profit in your pocket. So I do believe that it's a good time, right? Again, I would prefer to start the business when we're predicting an upturn rather than on a rapid decline, obviously. Okay. So that's just my 2 cents. Again, I've been in this industry for over 20 years. I've seen a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Just know everything that goes up must come down, and everything that goes down will go up, especially in industry like logistics and trucking. Okay. Hope that helps. Okay, Sergio says, my strategy to get shippers as for now is an owner-operator. I'm visiting the shippers and trying to speak in person with the logistics transportation manager while I work in my truck. I think it's a great idea. If you're a truck driver or an owner-operator, you have a great opportunity when you're on the dock to identify who those decision makers are, shake a hand and develop a basic relationship, and ask for permission to reach out to them later because you have something you'd like to share with them, right? So yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. I think that's a great strategy, Sergio. Anybody who's a truck driver or an owner operator, you have an incredible network that you could tap into over time. And then whether you do that part-time or whether you pivot out of truck driving and then you use those contacts as your source for reaching out and getting your first 5 or 10 shippers, I think it's a great strategy. Question from Brittany. Can you use your LLC to work with a brokerage? Is it more ideal? If you're a freight broker or a freight agent, I highly recommend you get an LLC. As a freight broker, you're going to have to get an LLC or a corporation. You have to do that. You can't operate it out of your personal name. You're going to have to get a corporation, okay, or an LLC. If you're an agent, you don't have to have an LLC, but I strongly recommend it. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving you financial advice, but I can tell you there are advantages to having a business in an LLC, okay? Plus, it limits your liability. That's what an LLC is for, limited liability corporation. So it helps prevent liability in the event something goes wrong. So yes, I would recommend that if you are doing business, that you have some corporation or LLC that that business is held in. Okay. And that is the entity where that owns the business and as well as the taxable entity. Okay. So I hope that helps, Brittany. Eric says, what is a surety bond and how much is it? I get this question all the time. So here's how the surety, what is a freight broker surety bond? The freight broker surety bond is a $75,000 bond. Now, don't let that scare you away because you don't need $75,000. It's a $75,000 bond that's kind of like an insurance product. Here's how it works. That bond brokers are required to have in order to have an active broker authority. And what that bond does is in the event that they do business with a carrier, and for whatever reason, that broker does not pay that carrier, the carrier can go to the bonding company and file a claim to get paid for that shipment. So it's not a cargo. It has nothing to do with cargo. It has nothing to do with your shippers. It is protection for carriers to prevent them from unscrupulous brokers not paying them for whatever reason. Okay. So again, let me reiterate. If a carrier did business with a broker and the broker didn't pay them for whatever reason, and they owe them money, that carrier can file on the bond and the bonding company will ensure that they get paid. Okay. So I hope that helps. Now, it's part two to that. A freight broker bond is, again, something that's required as a broker, but not required as an agent. As an agent, you don't need a bond. The freight broker bond is heavily based upon your personal credit. So the better your credit is, the lower the cost of your bond will be. The worse your credit is, the higher the price of the bond will be. Okay. So it's direct correlation. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay. Question. Last question. What's my first step after getting out of the program so I can start making money? Well, once you go through the Freight Broker Bootcamp Startup Program, one of the first things you're going to want to do, obviously, if you're going to become a broker, is you got to get your broker authority. If you're going to become an agent, then you're going to get set up under a broker as an independent 1099 agent. Okay. So that would be step one. After that, you're going to identify your niche. You're going to figure out what niche you're going to go after. You're going to go after produce. You're going to go after steel. You're going to go after oil and gas. What is going to be your niche? Okay. And then from there, you're going to make a list of prospects using some of the sources that I talked about today, like LinkedIn, or maybe even the database that's in Freight Broker Bootcamp, because we have a large shipper database in there, or maybe something like Apollo, where it's got a huge database where you can search specific niches. You're going to make a list, and then you're going to reach out to those shippers by email or by phone or by face-to-face. You're going to start developing that rapport and relationship in order to start doing business with them. That's where the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator comes in. Now, let me tell you about something for a second. You teed it up, so I'm going to share it with you really quick. I talked a little bit about the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator on the front end, but let me just explain something to you. Number one, if you want to get on the wait list, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. That is for my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator coaching and mentoring program. But let me explain something to you really quick. So since December, I've had some health-related and personal issues that have prevented me from enrolling any new students in my Freight Broker Bootcamp. I haven't enrolled a new student since December. Now, I have a wait list of over 1,000 people on that program, okay, that are looking for more information and to possibly join that program. So I haven't added anybody for, it's been like over 5 months. Okay. It's been like 5 months since I've added any because I've had some health related issues and I want to go down that rabbit hole. But the reality is that I'm going to be opening up enrollment. I'm going to tell you, if you're on the wait list, you're going to get notified by email or phone in the next few days with a link to all the specific details, because I'm now going to be accepting new clients into the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. Okay. Now that was normally something that is, that was kind of, I would add new people every month because people would graduate from the program, but I haven't added anybody for 5 months. So here's what I expect. I expect a whole bunch of people to want to enroll in this. But here's the thing, guys. There's very limited spots. Because it's a coaching and mentoring program, I don't have hundreds of students in that program at one time. Typically, I limit it to maybe 15, maybe as much as 20 clients at a time. But what that program is it's a hybrid program. Number one, you get the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator online course, right? Where you can learn the strategies that allowed me to do over $200 million as a freight broker. You can learn how to sell freight brokerage. But more importantly, we have a weekly live group coaching program, coaching call. It's a Zoom call where we all get together on that call. And if you have questions or issues or challenges with what you're learning inside the course, you ask me questions and we break it down, right? Into step-by-step pieces. If you're having issues with implementing those strategies into your business, that's where on those live calls, we're on a live Zoom call, I bring you up And we have a coaching and mentoring call right there inside the group where we break down any of those walls or issues that you're having, right? If you're on live sales calls and you're struggling because you have this type of feedback from the shipper, or you're struggling with, with fear of rejection, we jump into any of those live sales call scenarios. You come up and I help coach you through each one of those individual issues. Okay. So that's what that type of program is. It's a hybrid program where you get the online course and you get the live coaching program. And again, I haven't let anybody in that program for like 5 months because, again, some health related issues, but it's time to open it up. So in the next few days, if you're on the wait list, you're going to get a text or an email or both that's going to give you some information on how you can get enrolled in that program. And the way it happens is I personally hand select each member of that program. Okay. So I don't just let anybody into this program. I hand select each one of those members because, again, it's a small group and I want to make sure it's the right people. So if you want an opportunity to work with me direct and learn freight broker sales, learn my freight broker sales system and how to get shippers, but specifically how to get your first 5 or 10 shippers and launch yourself into 7 figures, that's what the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is all about. So I figured this was a good time to do that because that's one of the primary reasons why I chose that topic today, because I wanted to let everybody know that we are going to be opening up enrollment very soon. You're going to get something in the next few days, but you got to be on the wait list, because if you're not on the wait list, you're not going to get notified. You're not even going to know any of the information. Okay. So I hope that helps. Oh boy. Let me scroll here real quick. Let me find where it was. Okay. Okay, let me get that banner down. All right, so get on that wait list. I'm scrolling. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Man, what's going on here? Hold on. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. There's so many comments. It's like maddening here. Okay. Luke asks, what are effective ways to build connections with the point of contact through LinkedIn to generate potential new sales? Good question, Luke. So there's a couple ways you do it, right? There's really only 2 primary ways. Well, there's 3 primary ways you do it. One is you post content, right? You post videos or little micro blogs or images, or you post content on LinkedIn like any other social network, okay, that is specifically geared towards your niche. So if you're in the produce niche, you would post content that is relevant to the people in the produce industry, or it's relevant to the logistics managers that are in that role, maybe just logistics managers in general, but you're going to post content, and that is going to attract people to you and help position you as kind of an authority and an expert for delivering that information. Okay. So posting content is a great way to attract people to you, because when they like your content or when they comment on your content, it's pretty easy to identify that they're in that niche. And then you can either comment through that thread and start a dialogue, which is a great way to start developing a relationship. Or you can, if they have specific questions, you can ask them to DM you and you can start a dialogue that way. Or you can go to their profile and send a connection request and thank them for engaging with your content, and then use that as an entry point to start developing a relationship. So content is a great way to do it. I have generated thousands and thousands and thousands of leads through that exact strategy that I just shared with you. And it works for any niche. All right. So LinkedIn as a tool, in my freight brokerage, when I had my freight brokerage and I was running LDI, we generated over $20 million a year in annual recurring revenue from customers that came from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very powerful platform for B2B sales and marketing. Now, you can't beat people over the head with your pitch, but it's very easy to develop a relationship or an introductory relationship like you're talking about, an effective way to build connections. I like the way you put that. Build a connection with your point of contact. Good question, okay? Another way you can do that in LinkedIn, I'm going to give you another little hack, is find other people that are influencers or have a big following or are experts in your niche. Okay. Maybe they're not competitors of yours, but they're experts in your niche and they're on LinkedIn and maybe they're posting content regularly. So what you can do is you can piggyback off their authority by following their content and then commenting, putting a meaningful content, not a, oh, hey, great post or great job or, hey, really like your content. That's meaningless. A really thoughtful post that's engaging not only to the person that put the content out, but also to anybody that reads the comments. Because now what you're doing is you're inserting yourself into their influence. Let's say, for example, they've been building a LinkedIn following for a long time. They've got 20 or 30,000 followers or more. Every time they post a content, they get 50, 100 or more, even 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 likes, comments, and shares. And so you can then insert yourself into their influence. You don't even have to have any connections. I mean, you might have a handful of connections or 100 connections or whatever, but you can insert yourself into their influence. And because they're an expert in your niche, your industry, the people that are in your industry, in your niche, in your points of contact, and in your potential prospects are engaging with that content. It's pretty easy to find that. And then you do the exact same thing. You comment and then you comment on other people's and you can start a dialogue that way. That's a great way to do it. Okay, so those are two really good ways to do it. Both involve content. One is from another party, an influencer or expert in your niche, and the other one is by you posting it. So those are a couple really great ways to do it. Obviously, the most glaring way to do it is if you find somebody on LinkedIn through a search and you send a custom connection request and you're not salesy, right? So you send a connection request, but you add a custom note to it. And then that custom note is something that is relevant, but not salesy. And the objective there is you'll probably get somewhere between 30 and maybe 60% of the people to accept your connection request. And if they do that, it's pretty easy to start a dialogue as long as you don't treat them like a baby seal and beat them over the head with your club. Okay. I know that was pretty graphic, but that's the reality of how I think a lot of people try to use LinkedIn. Okay. Or just sales in general. So hope that helps. Good question, Luke. Thank you. Eric, is it beneficial to join the Chamber of Commerce in your city and county in order to get shippers? Yeah, if you've got a good manufacturing base in your area, manufacturing distribution, if you have people that are moving product from point A to point B, the Chamber of Commerce is a great place to meet those people. Plus, if you're a member of the Commerce, you're going to be able to get access to their member list. And then that could be an introductory part of your conversation when you reach out to them, when you email them, when you call them, when you stop in, right? Chambers of Commerce have regular meetups, right, on different topics. So it's a great way to network. So yeah, I think the Chamber of Commerce can be a great way. Now, is it going to rain down customers just because you join the Chamber of Commerce? No, you're still going to have to do all the sales. You're still going to have to network. You're still going to have to build those relationships, but it makes it easier to build those relationships and to start those conversations because you have that in common. Okay. Hope that helps. Okay, question from William. I've been emailing as the first contact. I'm hesitant to call when I get no response because I'm not sure I have the right person. What do you advise? Okay, I understand your question. And what I like about what you're doing is you're doing a multi-touch point outreach strategy. You're not just relying on the phone. You're not just relying on email. You're doing a multi-touch point outreach strategy, which I believe is a great strategy and what I teach because you will increase your contact rate. Remember, sales is a contact sport. So you have to have those conversations in order to go anywhere, whether that be email or through LinkedIn or through the phone or face-to-face. You got to start those conversations somewhere, right? So what I would suggest is if you want to start with an email, you can't limit yourself to just the people that reply to your email. You're never going to build your pipeline that way. You have to get past the fear of rejection and you have to start contacting those people that aren't responding to you. It doesn't matter whether it's the right person, because if it's not the right person, you can simply say, hey, you know what, William, I'm really sorry. Could you do me a favor? who would be the right person that I should talk to in your organization? I don't want to waste anybody's time. Or better yet, you could do your research up front through tools like Apollo, through tools like LinkedIn and other databases, where you could identify the name of the shipping manager, the name of the warehouse manager, logistics manager, right? So that's my advice. But yeah, I would not continue doing what you're doing, because you're never going to build a sales funnel if you're only going to call people that are responding to you via email. And the only reason why you do that is because you're afraid. It's fear. It's fear of rejection. Okay. You got to get past that. If you cannot get past the fear of rejection, you're going to have a tough road. Okay. And we spend a lot of time on that in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator program. Okay. I did not believe that we would spend nearly as much time on the fear of rejection and the fear of what people might think and say. And I didn't think we'd spend nearly as much time on mindset in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator as we actually do, because people are just like you. They have a fear of making the first call. They have a fear of following up. They're afraid what people might think. And we have to navigate that, because if you can't get through that fear, you're probably not going to survive. Okay. You're probably not going to survive. So we end up spending a good amount of time on that. I mean, I have a lot of clients that go through the Sales Accelerator that have that exact program or that exact question and issue. So yeah, if you guys are struggling with mindset, right? If you're struggling with how to get shippers, if you're struggling with cold calling, if you're struggling with anything to do with freight broker sales, get on the wait list, because I'm going to be opening up some spots very, very soon in the next few days, but you won't know if you're not on the wait list. I'm scrolling. Give me a minute. Scott has kind of a follow-up. Is it better to do emails or phone calls in a new technology world? It's better to do both. You cannot just limit yourself to emails. The reason being is because the heavy majority of cold emails that you send to a prospect are going to get filtered by their IT system and by their software, because if they don't recognize your email address, they're going to get filtered. Okay. Very common. Secondly, it's very hard to build rapport and to get a response from somebody via email that's very, very busy. Okay. Unless they have immediate pain today and they just got punched in the face and they're struggling to recover, if timing has to be perfect. So what I teach is a multi-touch point outreach strategy. I use email, phone, LinkedIn, face-to-face, whenever possible. So we create a sales cadence that's based upon all of those different channels. Okay. And what that does is that can double or even quadruple your contact rate by opening it up to those other platforms. Okay. But there's a specific way you want to do it. You got to build a sales cadence. And that's again, another part of what we talk about a lot in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. So I hope that helps, Scott. Yeah, glad you're here. I usually transport cars and I don't use factoring because it's COD. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, you're going to get paid by your shipper on delivery, right? You're going to get paid by your customer on delivery, which makes it very easy for you to pay your carriers. Okay. So yeah, typically if you're doing COD, if you're doing COD as an auto transport, like you're doing a snowbird who's moving their car from Florida or, from Florida back to the Northeast, yeah, they're going to pay you upon either in advance or upon delivery. So you don't need factoring. Good point. Okay, there's a lot of comments going in and out there, so I'm trying to find some specific questions. And we're going to wrap up in about a minute here. I'm going to try to find one or two more questions. Sergio says, should I open LinkedIn before getting the authority in order to know the network and how to navigate it? I would get a LinkedIn profile, a free profile. You don't have to pay for a subscription immediately. Yeah. If you're going to be in business, LinkedIn is a great tool for a couple things. Number one, you can gather a lot of sales intelligence about the niche you're going into, the companies and the people you're going after. Number two, you can gather a lot of information about your competitors. And number three, you can start building relationships and connections with anybody in the business world that can help you foster and build your business. So yes, I would set up your LinkedIn ASAP, and it's 100% free. Just go to linkedin.com. You can sign up. You can build your profile. You can start building connections, people that you know, people that you don't know, people you want to know. Absolutely. Evan asks, how can specific niches such as heavy haul, expedited, and cross-border be targeted effectively? Well, heavy haul is pretty easy because you're typically going to be looking for things that are very big and heavy, like high, wide, and heavy, right? That type of niche, right? Over-dimensional freight, or, again, heavy haul stuff, which is all goes into kind of that format, is fairly easy because it's going to be things that are very big, right? Like heavy equipment, like like if you're transporting a bulldozer, right? It's going to be heavy equipment. If you're transporting, turbine propellers, right? For wind turbines, that's going to be heavy, that's going to be heavy haul, over wide and dimensional stuff. So it's pretty easy by industry and by product to target heavy haul, right? Now, targeting expedited and cross-border is much more challenging. Now, there are specific industries that have a tendency to do more import-export than others. So you could do some research there and try to identify those industries that are more import or export related. And those would probably give you a little bit of a leg up and narrow down your list, right? Here's your pool of potential shippers. And if you find people that are heavy into import export and you're looking for cross-border, it's going to narrow it down to probably something this big. So it's going to save you some time. But I can't get you an easy list of people that are doing cross-border freight, right? Targeting expedited. Expedited is even more challenging, right? Because expedited is something that a shipper never wants to use unless they absolutely have to. So almost all shippers will expedite shipments of one time or another, but some industries and some companies have a tendency to do expedited more than others. Perfect example, like the auto industry is known for expedited freight. Why? Well, the reason being is because if they have one of their machines in their plant break down and it needs a part, right? Every minute, every hour that machine is down, it's costing them tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they don't have a problem expediting a part from one of their, manufacturers to try to replace and fix that. That's an example of how an expedited shipment might work. Another thing was if they ran out of some of their parts, that when they were manufacturing a car, and they've now got to expedite some of those parts from a supplier. So there are some industries that are much more conducive to expedited, and there are other industries that aren't, right? Typically, higher value freight is expedited, lower value freight is not. So you're not going to typically expedite a shipment of recycled cans, okay, or recycled rubber. It's not very likely those are going to be expedited, okay? But auto parts, or if it's in the aerospace, or maybe it's oil and gas, things that have higher value, or where if there's a shutdown, it costs a lot of money, that's where you would probably run into more expedited freight. So, I'm just giving you a little bit of a brain dump, but I hope that helps. Okay, guys, listen, that's going to wrap it up for today. Listen, who is on the wait list? Hit me up in the comments if you're on the wait list. If you're not on the wait list yet for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, again, if you have not went through the Freight Broker Bootcamp, right, and you're not already ready to become a freight broker or freight agent, or you've already done that, then I'd focus you on the Freight Broker Bootcamp, the startup program. But if you're ready, and if you're ready to start getting customers, and you're ready to start building that out and start moving freight, and you need help, whether that be with mindset or whether that be with cold calling, or whether that be with overcoming objections, or whether that be with follow-up or closing the sale, or any of those different components of sales, get on the wait list. All right. If you're on the wait list and you're ready to go and you want to get started, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you're not on the wait list, make sure you join the wait list. Again, it's absolutely free to join the wait list. It's not free to join the Sales Accelerator. It's not cheap, but I can promise you that whatever investment you're asked for, you can easily, I've had clients that in their first year got a 50x return on their investment. Okay. 50 times what they paid for the program, they got that type of return. You got to understand that just doesn't happen, guys. Okay. So that's the reality of what the program can do for you. It's what it's done for others. But again, this is something that's specific to how to get shippers and how to start, fast tracking yourself to 7 figures. So who else is on the wait list? Brittany's on the wait list. Scott's on the wait list. Who else? Who else is waiting for that text or email when I open it up? I've got it's over 1,000. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely over 1,000. And the way it works is it's first come, first served, but I hand select each person. So what'll happen is that when you get on the wait list and then I send out the text, you're going to see all the details, but then you're going to schedule a call. And then we're going to jump on about a 15-minute phone call. If I pick you, right, based on your application that you're going to submit, if you're picked, we're going to jump on a phone call. And then that phone call is going to be the foundation of whether whether you think I'm a good fit for you and whether, you're a good fit for me. And at the end of that, you're going to either be enrolled or we're going to kind of part company and maybe we can do it at a later time. But ultimately that's how it's going to work, right? So we're going to actually jump on a call. I'm not just accepting everybody into this program. So I want to make sure that you're serious about building a 7-figure freight brokerage or freight agency. If you're not, then you're definitely not going to be a part of this group. I'm not looking for tire kickers. Okay. So Ember, a lot out there training today. Thanks, Danny. Good. A lot of good questions. Hope you guys got some good feedback. I hope you guys got some answers. If you found any value in this live, do me a huge favor. Hit the like button now. Okay. Hit the like button and share the stream. I don't know if you're on Facebook or maybe you're on LinkedIn or maybe you're on YouTube. Share the stream. Let other people know. Again, this is a live. I do these live every Monday at noon. Set a reminder on your phone. Set a reminder on your computer. Every Monday at noon, I do these live trainings. Today just happened to be a dedicated live Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. Be ready for that text. And again, if you need help with how to get shippers, if you want to continue and work with me on a live coaching basis, check out the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist.